I know you have heard of will, while others have heard of trust, and they think that those are the only two tools you can actually use to plan for the transfer of your asset to the next generation. What I want to tell you is that there are a couple of other unconventional ways you can actually use to transfer your lightweight assets, quote unquote, to your preferred beneficiaries without necessarily going through the court. And mind you, we have not used the will, or we have not used what we call the trust fund. So for those who may have missed some of our episodes, let me explain what a will does and what a trust does. A will is a legal tool that you use and you draft it with your attorney to plan for the transfer of your assets upon your death, meaning that will becomes functional the moment you die. On the other hand, a trust fund is a legal tool also, just like a will. However, this legal tool, that is the trust fund, can actually start its work immediately after formation. You don't have to wait until that time you are not there. For a will, we must do upon death. If there is any dispute, the rule is we must go to the court. But a trust, if there is dispute, we go to the trustee. Second difference for the will is that will is more publicized, yeah, while the trust is very, very private. So even if there are some disputes, we go down to a private place and we sort the problems. Again, it's very, very easy to form a will. Very, very easy, because you just need an attorney, and then you sit down with him, you tell him this is what I own, and upon my death, these are the people who would actually get my assets in this proportion. And for a trust, what happens is that, yes, there are attorneys involved depending with the structure or the type of trust fund you are forming. However, it has more experts. We have legal parties, we also have tax experts, we have advisors, financial advisors, because it's a very detailed book that we are drafting to make sure that when you are not there, everything will kind of go on seamlessly without necessarily going to the court for intervention. Now, there are those things you can set to be inherited immediately without necessarily using the will or the trust fund. For example, we have a bank account. If you look at the amount of money that goes to Unclaimed Financial Asset Authority, there are a lot of money. And the simple reason is majority of men have multiple accounts. The spouses only knows of one. So the other accounts actually goes or has money sitting there, doing nothing. And because the spouses do not understand that probably the husband had other accounts, the money will go to the Unclaimed Fund Authority, and you could find that your family is actually suffering, yet you had money. What we say of death, unfortunately, comes before we are prepared. So for you who has multiple accounts, you don't have to kind of worry so much, because there are some banks which are generous enough to give you this information. And I would also want you to go to your bank and ask them a very simple question. What would happen if I'm not there and I have money in the account? And you'll be shocked by the response. The second question you need to ask them is, do we have anything that I can fill to make sure that my family can automatically access this fund without necessarily going through the court process. If they tell you yes, you shall be happy. But majority of them will give you a lot of stories, and that is what we are trying to avoid. So this one particular document you can ask them, because it helps them to automatically get access of their funds inside the account without going to the lawyers or without seeking what we call grant letters from the courts. Actually, the account, you can continue running the account even if the initial owner is not there. The document we are talking of is called PODD, that is Payable on Death Designation Form. It's a very important document. The moment you fill that, it will help your preferred beneficiary to take over the anything on about that account, so that they can be able to access, they can be able to transact without really seeking permission from someone who had no relationship with you. And that is why I want you to go to that bank. No, life has so much, as I've told you. And the more we talk about it, the better we keep or we get prepared, and that is why every now and then you'll hear me talk of inheritance, because I've discovered, or rather it's not a discovery I've done, it's the reality. The most expensive event is when we are talking about inheritance. A simple dispute can dilute your assets by maybe 40%, 50%. And surprisingly, the people who will get the biggest cut are the people whom you are not related with, the people who did nothing to contribute to the growth of your assets. And the better you prepare for that event, because it eventually will come, just like, the moment you are born, the other guaranteed thing that will happen to all of us, is death. So you could be doing so much for your family when you're still alive, but the moment your heart stops, everything can change. The ownership of these assets goes to people who probably were not really your preferred beneficiary. So what I would tell you is, I can help you structure something that can help you, and you'll have control over what you own now and even beyond what we call your death. And the tool I'm talking of is trust fund. Trust fund is the most important tool you can possibly use. It doesn't matter the age you are in. You could be 20s, you could be 40s, you could be whichever age. That is what I mean. And it's not that complex as people might actually think. It's not for the rich. It's for everyone who want control. You want control of your asset 100% when you are alive. And you also want to shape the behaviors of those who will come after you, so that they don't have to just sit simply because you gathered. And you also want to make sure that their welfare is taken care of. This a certain clip that has been going around, and a certain gentleman was asking this question: you mean for couple of generations, maybe 100 generations, in your life, no one has accumulated anything for me? My dad, my grandfather, my great grandfather, all those people have worked in this place, and unfortunately they have not managed to put anything for me. Yeah, it was kind of a rhetorical question. So one of the ways you can make sure that your great grandchildren can actually remember you, and your name will forever be remembered, is by having something like this. Yeah, something that will preserve what you are accumulating, so that it doesn't really end with the first line of your generation, that is your children. Yeah, so guys, I've given you just one task. Go to your bank and ask them what document you can fill, so that your family does not have to go through the court process as required. These are documents. All right. So see you guys in the next episode as we learn about something we call TODD. All right. Thank you. See ya.